You're going to head out on the mail route. You can see it here. It basically starts in Ephesus, goes up through Smyrna, along the coastline, gets to Pergamum, then goes over to Thyatira, hits Sardis, Philadelphia, and then all the way over to Laodicea. You're going to follow this ancient mail route, and as you're walking this morning, there's a couple other travelers that join up with you. You haven't seen them before. They live, well, you hear they live south of Ephesus, and they're grain farmers. And today, traveling is just the father and the young daughter. Nicias and Thalia, we're going to call them. Nicias is the grain farmer, Thalia is the young girl. And you begin to excitedly talk to them about heading to this beautiful city, and Nicias, you hear, has been dealing with significant drought and a lot of infestations with his crops, and his crops have been dying. So he's going to go to Pergamum to talk to the gods about this and try to make an offering to make sure his crops will grow. Thalia, on the other hand, is this beautiful young lady. You can tell that she recently has covered her head, so it means that she just became a lady. And you hear that she's going to Pergamum to go through the ritual of being eligible to become a wife. You're not sure what that means, but you walk together and just enjoy the journey. And at nighttime, you get together, and Nicias and Thalia say, why don't you come stay with us? We've got a villa reserved for us. Why don't you come stay with us? And so you do. And in this, he says, well, why don't we take you on a tour tomorrow and show you this amazing city? So you get there, camp out in this villa in the lower city where most of the population lived down here. And in the morning, they decide to take you up to the pinnacle. And we're going to stop at the altar of Zeus. In the early morning light, you're gathered together with Nicias and Thalia, and you approach this massive altar of Zeus, 116 feet square, I believe, 30-some feet tall, filled with people in this morning air. You can smell the burning incense. The city, you can hear, is just coming to life all around you. But you can tell that Nicias' mind is somewhere else. He seems to be on a mission, and he approaches the altar and climbs up the altar. And surrounded here is a depiction of the gods in battle with the giants. You can still see it today. And how this battle reigned through the heavens, and they kicked the giants down to earth, and that's what causes earthquakes and volcanoes. But Nicias approaches and pulls his daughter close, and you hear her asking the question, so what is with Zeus? What does he do? And he says, no, Zeus is the king of kings. He's the God of gods, and he is watching over Pergamum, so we must honor him today. But Dad, how does this work? And he says, it's through the flames and through the blood of the bull. At the top of the altar, they bring out this majestic bull covered in flowers, a crown on its head, gleaming in this rising sun, and they bring it out to the front of the altar, and the high priest begins to say, mighty Zeus, father of gods and men, we call upon you, accept this offering, grant your favor upon Pergamum. You see the knife, the blood spills. In the early morning, the smoke rises on the temple of Zeus. You feel a gust of wind move through the temple, and the crowd begins to shout, Zeus has accepted our sacrifice. You see Nicias lean over, say to his daughter, Zeus is watching. He is listening to our prayers. The King of Kings has heard our cry. You know the day is going to get away from you, so they lead you, Nicias and Thalia lead you on up and take you now to the temple of Athena. This temple of Athena is a massive courtyard surrounded by 2-story colonnade, basically the size of a football field. It blows your mind to stand there. And you're saying, well, so what is Athena? And he's like, Athena is the mother goddess. She is the one that leads us. If you ever need to seek truth, you come and worship here in the courtyards of Athena. Because Athena, if you follow the right way, she will lead you to truth. And by following the way that she leads out and listening to the truth that she gives you, she will give you life. Because Athena is the God of the way, the truth, and the life. Something else that is hidden here that is amazing. This is the second largest library in the world. 200,000 volumes of knowledge were compiled in this temple to Athena. You beg the group that you can go in there and stay, but they usher you out to avoid the library. But this is where you went to study truth. You begin to question things that you've heard, because isn't God the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Isn't Christ the way, the truth, and the life? What's happening in this city of Pergamum that's going on? They quickly take you out from the temple of Athena and head up the hill further, and you get to the temple of Caesar. And this isn't the pinnacle because the Caesar now is in control of the gods. He is the one that's overseeing this. And in the front of this temple, the proconsul, the governor of the area, the capital city here, comes out this morning and is giving the prayers to Caesar as you stand there and you hear him worshiping the Son of the living God. What's interesting, you see him standing there, and on his side you see a sword, and you're wondering, who is this? So you talk to the guy that's leading you around, and you say, so who is this? What is he doing? He's like, oh, this is the proconsul. He has right of the sword. Right of the sword. I haven't really heard that. He's like, oh yes, right of the sword meaning as you are the leader that you have the right over life and death. If there's a court case, if there is a trial that's happening, you have the right to declare life or death over that person. And if you say live, he lives. If not, he dies. It's the right of the sword. As a symbol of that authority, at your side is a sharp two-edged sword. Gladius. It's called us gladi. There is a governor that you probably will know, a guy by the name of Pontius Pilatus, that the governor of Judea at the trial of Christ has the authority to give life or death. At his side would have been a sharp two-edged sword that you can see. That is the power of this sword. And he says, oh, the proconsul has the two-edged sword. He has the power over life or death. Right after the prayers to the Caesar, you hear the proconsul say that the festival of Dionysus, the Dionysia, is going to begin today. And immediately you hear the crowd start becoming excited because this is a massive, massive festival. They all head down to the theater right off of this. It's the steepest theater ever uncovered. It is a workout to climb those steps. It seats about 10,000 people. And this morning's performance is going to be the Bacchia, Euripides' play on the life of Dionysus. In understanding Dionysus, you have to realize that he is the god of wine and orgy. He is the god of Las Vegas. But this festival is the one that marks the center, the hub of worship for Dionysus. Bacchia, you don't quite understand the term, so you whip out your Greek pocket guide of translations and understand that Bacchia is frenzied female followers in an ecstatic state. This is going to be about the followers of Dionysus. As you descend the steps to take your place, the group huddles together and finds a few seats. And as they're sitting there on this beautiful marble theater, you see all around you all different walks of life, the rich and the wealthy, all over from Pergamum, sitting there and ready to observe this tragedy, this play, this story of Dionysus. First, the chorus enters, and in a slow, hypnotic dance, they begin to sing the songs of Dionysus. In the story, it is against a king. One of the kings of Thebes, Pentheus, makes a front and stands up against Dionysus. Immediately, the crowd just like, oh, you can't stand up against the gods. And behind this scene is the city of Thebes painted across the backdrop. These wild Bacchia, these women followers of Dionysus, begin to whip themselves into a frantic dance, erotic, flailing, arms outstretched. Imagine what they are doing. Their cries are filling now the skies. Then Pentheus, now the doomed king, steps forth with a mask on his face, and Dionysus now with his it's always shown with curled golden locks, comes out as well and begins to whisper to this king that made a affront against him and basically seduces him to turn into a frenzied woman. Becomes out as a cross-dresser, as a part of this display. And now these are raving actors on the stage. And the king's mother, Agave, is there as a part of it as well, and just in this worshiping of Dionysus. And before long, you see the king coming forward and facing Dionysus, and a head rolls, and it's presented to the mother, and the mother doesn't recognize it until she turns it over and realizes it's her son's head. And now the crowd is just screaming in ecstasy as they watch this performance. The play ends as it begins. Dionysus is standing untouched above it all, observing the crowd and their sexual deviance, and the actors on the stage doing whatever they have desired to do now, are now singing the songs of Dionysus. This is the Bacchia. This is the performance. You aren't sure what you just watched. You're kind of taken aback. But now the entire crowd is pouring down the theater to an area right over here. You can't really see it, but it's the temple of Dionysus, because outside the Dionysus, they promised free wine, as much as you can drink. And as you come down into the temple temple prostitutes come out. And these aren't normal prostitutes. These are hand-picked prostitutes. These are the wealthiest wives and daughters in the town. For one night or one day, they're able to be blessed with this gift of being these temple prostitutes. Nicias and Thalia disappear into the crowd and seem to head that direction, and you're not sure what's going on. You try to hide out of the way, but can't get away from all these people that are crushing you on this sacred way. Now the wine is flowing. People are becoming crazed. They believe that if they can drink the blood and eat the flesh of the god, they will become God-like. So if you drink his blood, the wine, and eat his flesh, the meat, then Dionysus is inside you. And then you are holy. You're accepted. Wait a minute. Didn't Christ say that if we eat his flesh and drink his blood? What's going on here in Pergamum? What is doing this? We now see that they have the way, truth, and life. They have the King of Kings and God of Gods, and they have this sacrament with the people in Dionysus. You try to rush out of the way, and as you're hurrying away, Nicias and Thalia find you, and they pull you into this villa. You don't understand what this villa is, but it's actually, a Dionysus villa, a multi-story building. In the first story, you walk in, and there is wine everywhere. This is where you can drink to the full. As you go up a layer, there's a offering, a sacrifice, a idol or a altar there. You can see it laying here, where they offer meat on it. They would offer some sort of animal on it, and you would grab your wine and get your meat here, and you would lay on the benches up here. And anything that you can imagine now is going. Full drunkenness, eating raw, blood-filled meat. I don't know how you drink and eat raw meat, but you're supposed to partake of the gods. And you know you have done that when you have partaked with this is when you visit one of these holes in the ground and vomit out. At that point, you know Dionysus is in you. And all day, drinking and eating raw meat and vomiting it out. Now as a group, you rush outside. You're like, what is going on here? This is not a place that we can understand. We understand this is where Satan lives, but I didn't understand that it was so bad. You rush out across the sacred way, and you come to this little alcove. So you as a group get in there, and you're trying to understand what's going on. And off to the side, you see this metal bowl-looking figure on top of an altar. And you're like, what is this? What is going on? And now Nicias and Thalia have found you, and you say, so what is this image? And what is this bowl? This image of this animal here? It's like, oh, that's where we sacrifice. And inside it is where you put people. And as they burn, this horn distorts their cries, and it sounds like a bull yelling. He says, I've heard rumors that a few years ago there was a guy by the name of Antipas that was burned this way. You're like, Antipas? Wasn't he one of those believers that were here? You continue down the sacred way, and I'm missing a slide. I apologize. I have no idea where it went. And it's now to the temple of Demeter. Nicias is different as you approach this temple, because this seems to be the main reason why he was coming here. You see him approach this, and you begin to smell something that is even worse than what you've been experiencing so far. And you realize now that Nicias is dressed in a full white robe, flowing, shining in the sun. And he approaches a building outside this massive complex here. Again, it's about the size of a football field. And right outside of it is this big, almost pit-looking structure with an arch over top of it. And you begin to hear him talking to the priests here and negotiating with them. And you hear something about redemption and purity and blood sacrifice. You're not sure what's going on, but they lead this bull, again, this animal, this bull out before him, and he climbs down into this pit. Like, what is this? And above it, they lay a grate, and on top of it, they lead the bull across it. And as Nicias is down below it, they sacrifice the bull and the blood flows freely and covers him completely in his white garbs. They want him to be fully covered in blood, because we know that only with the covering of blood can you be forgiven from your sins. Nicias is brought out from the pit, fully covered. Now he's holy. Now he's acceptable to go into the Holy of Holies of Demeter. And they approach him into Demeter. Demeter is, in Greek, it'd be Ceres or Ceres. We know it. It's translating into English. We would know it as cereal, the god of grain. So cereal actually is the same thing because he is the grain god. And Nicias begins to cry out to this god about how his crops are failing and the insect pressure and all of this and trying to make sure that Demeter hears his cry. Demeter is the god that brings life out of the ground, the bread of the life. As you leave, he goes to the gymnasium and then to the baths, obviously. But Thalia seems different. This young girl that you've been traveling with knows and seems to be needing to do something that you're not sure what needs to be done. She slips away, and about this time, her dad comes back. It's like, where'd your daughter go? It's like, oh, she needs to do the sacred rite to become eligible to be married. You're like, what is that? Oh, during the Dionysus, young girls have to seduce a perfect stranger and have an open sexual act on the streets to become eligible to be married. Is this where Satan lives? Now, as a group, you finally gather back together that evening and meet with this church at Pergamum. And you begin once again to read this letter. And just see if this letter reads different now that you know where you live. These are the words of him who has the sharp, two-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. Yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce your faith in me, nor even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who has put to death in your city where Satan lives. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you have held to the teachings of Balaam, who've taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin, so they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. Likewise, you also have those who hold the teachings of the Nicolaitans. Repent, therefore, otherwise I will soon come to you and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give them some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. See, the people of Pergamum are surrounded by counterfeits. If you want to understand what Satan looks like in society, it's counterfeiting what God is truth and does. Every single aspect of society, every aspect of life is counterfeit. It's twisted. It's distorted. But when you hear this story and when you hear about life in Pergamum, how can you live a Christian life in that? Do you flee to the hills? I mean, if there's a festival, a Dionysia happening where open sexuality and drunkenness is going on, how do you exist? In Ephesians, Paul writes, among you there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality or of any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Our job is to declare to the world that he is God. I don't know how you do that in Pergamum outside of living pure lives. And those little things that seem insignificant, they become a massive testimony, because if I could just hold Nicias and Thalia aside at the end of the day and saying, do you actually feel that God heard your cry? I don't think they would have. You see this small group from Summitville, led by Dan Catan, I'll explain later. We often think that God's not working. We often think, and I've asked this questions many times, what is actually different about the gospel? Other people get wealthy. Other people live longer lives. Other people have greater success. Other people have this. Other people have that. And you forget this true, real story of the gospel of Jesus Christ. There is peace. There is hope. There is a God that loves you. And we look at our stone, this living stone that Christ is molding and shaping. On it should be this beautiful story of how God has blessed us each time, even in the small. I don't get it. Pergamum changes. Pergamum becomes Christian. There's some things I struggle with. I could take you to a theater where carved on the seats of the theater says Theosebes, God-fearers. But obviously, they lived what Ephesians said, and they did live without sexual immorality and lived good lives. And because of that, the world changes. Within 100 years, 50% of Asia Minor seems to become Christian. I don't get it. But God says if we present his testimony in the small, he does move and the kingdom does come.